So when I entered into the doctoral program up here at Marshall Davery Hall in the Education Faculty, I had ideas once I realized I was not going to incorporate the digital literacy framework into my dissertation, in my doctoral studies. I had some other ideas. I wanted to do a podcast series as my dissertation. And I had two supervisors. Co-supervisors are fantastic, by the way. They said, well, that's a great idea and good for you for pushing these alternative, non-traditional forms of research dissemination. You can go for it, but if you want to be a professor, you may want to consider not doing that. We're not saying yes or no, just a heads up. So I chose to, this was a conundrum, so I'll get back to that in just a sec. This was also where I discovered media ecology scholarship, which is a really interesting field that I really encourage you to look at, the study of technology as environments. And because during my first year of my doctoral studies, I didn't know how I was going to approach this work. In fact, I didn't even know what I was going to do at this point because I had, hung my hat on that. And again, I mentioned that it was COVID-19. I'll talk about why I call that the Great Education Experiment in just a minute. And so I was also attracted to this articles-based approach. So I'm going to skip through a few of these slides because I want to get to something that may be more relevant to you, and those are those tips that I've kind of picked up. But at the same time, I was moving from a teacher practitioner into the world of intellectual researcher. And there were all of these works and studies and research that said, can these two worlds exist simultaneously? And most of the work that I read said, no, you have to choose whether you're going to be a teacher practitioner or whether you're going to be an intellectual researcher. And we even have professors who are either teaching professors or research professors, right? And it's interesting that we kind of divide that up for whatever reason. So I wanted to explore, I had some goals, and I wanted to take my experience as a teacher and bring it into this doctoral study. So I had some ideas around that. Research said, that's a good thing that you're a teacher moving into this world because you're mature, you have professional experience, and you're dedicated to education. This is good. And then there were others that said, this is going to be really tough for you because whose questions are you asking? Yours as a teacher or as a researcher who's looking in and curious about these things? And your perspective, are you bringing biases to the table here as a teacher, a practitioner, or are you going to be able to shift your mindset, your worldviews into the world of academia? And so there was these tensions. And I'm going to skip through this part here and just talk about that. So that there was this difficulty in living these two worldviews. And I argued that yes, you can be both of these things. You can be a teacher practitioner and an intellectual research. And in fact, it's a good thing that you can live these worlds. So as an educator who is in the Faculty of Education, yes, you can. It's actually encouraged that you have both of these experiences. Plus, you can make your research accessible, relevant, and practical having these experiences. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where this took me in the end. Okay, what I ended up doing is I ended up doing a podcast for one of my comprehensive exams. So I was able to, I'm an audible person. I love music, I love sound, and I really relate well to that. So I was able to, as one of my comp exams, do a podcast, and it came with a written piece to accompany it. And then I moved in to do an articles-based thesis. And the reason I did that was because I wanted to create, I wanted to share some of my research not only with other academics, but I wanted to share them with teacher practitioners, teachers who may benefit from this. And so I said, okay, well, that's not just going to be articles behind paywalls then. So let's think about other ways that we can share information. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little, I tell you all that to frame what I'm going to talk about today. So the top 10 things every grad student needs to know. All right, from my perspective, of course. Number one, everyone is an imposter. You hear this when you begin your work as a master's or a doctoral PhD student. You learn this. You say you'll have imposter syndrome, but it's absolutely true. In my case, I felt it. There will be times when you think that you're in the wrong place, that you can't do it, and you wonder how you got here. Maybe some of you have had those thoughts already, right? That's completely normal. Stay the course. Number 2, you're going to get lonely and experience many peaks and valleys. You'll have highs and lows. Let's not sugarcoat things. This is it will be one of the toughest things that you ever do in your life. It will be. Recognize that it's a journey that requires perseverance. And with that said, don't do it alone. You can have a support network that will, and embrace that, share some of these trials and tribulations with your colleagues, go for coffee with them, and be in constant communication with your supervisors, lean on your family and friends. Number 3, being organized is absolutely essential. One way to do that is to start putting things into folders. Whether you're a physical folder person or a digital folder person, get organized. It will help you so much. Some tips for you on the digital front: use tags when you're saving work. You may have, and by tags, I mean, so if you have a file that you've put on your computer, of course you have the file name that you can search, but if you have a broader category for that file, it's a good thing. So in my case, it might be, I may have a couple specific digital tools that I'm really interested in. One, maybe green screen, or you could have something in your line of work where you're talking about a specific topic. Tag it with that topic, and then you'll have all those topics being able to be gathered into one field of entry when you're searching for something. And then not only would you organize your articles and your work in progress and all these things on your desktop or on your OneDrive, organize them in your email as well, because you're going to be finding articles along the way that you want to save, and you'll email. A practice that I had, I'd email them to myself. And when I'd email them, I would have in the subject field, not the title of the article, I'd have them in, for my own research interests. This talks about teachers' struggles with teams during the pandemic. I'd have that paraphrased in the subject, and then I'd fold it away inside my email. So I would have my computer and my email as my 2 main sources of my research and the information. Exactly. And sometimes when I said, oh, this article, cha-ching, this is jackpot, I would have an asterisk beside in the subject field of that email as well. So when I'm going through looking at all these, I see 6 emails with asterisks or stars in the subject line, knowing that they're gold. Okay, so stay organized. Number 4, create and manage your own citations and references. Don't assign that task to software or AI. Now, this is not something that folks all agree with me on. This is my own personal take on this. In fact, Mark and I did a fun presentation a few years ago on Mendeley and Zotero, and the kind of how they both work and benefits to those. What I found, so I started to use Mendeley quite a bit in my first year, and I discarded Mendeley after that first year for several reasons. The main reason was that it was taking away from my own knowledge and understanding and recall of the main researchers that I was including in my work. So I had all of these people, these folks that were talking about technology, media, environments, COVID-19, but I had so many, 100, that they were all just names to me. I had no relation to them. But when I actually would write down the references and citations myself, Marcia McLuhan, understanding media, then I write that over and over and over again. It becomes part of me. I understand it. I can recall it. I can almost see the pages that I'm using because I've made it a part of me and not assigned that task to a software system. The other thing is that some of these citation softwares get clunky. They make mistakes, and then you end up having to go fix them all anyway. So that's just my experience. I like doing it on my own, so I have that innate understanding of it. Okay, number 5, look ahead. As you're beginning especially, try to write some of your course essays or some of your assignments and your comprehensive exams as potential contributors to chapters or articles of your thesis or dissertation. If you can find a way to envision what you're doing, to keep the end in mind when you're doing your work, and you will save yourself time in the end, you'll keep yourself focused, and you'll be able to have content that you can use.
So it means I can ask, because now I'm constructing my committee. I'm looking for, so I can ask them, okay, so you're gonna provide me questions, okay? So this question in interdisciplinary, we've got like question to, and after we've got report to do. So what I can do it is I say, okay, could I use this comprehensive exam to contribute to a chapter in the book from some call, from I don't know, from a journal or whatever.
Yeah.
It could be possible for
it should be probable.
Probable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the word I'm going.
Yes. Yeah. Because your work is your work. It has to be meaningful to you, and it has to be valuable and useful, right? So don't just write. Talk to your professors, talk to your supervisor, and say, I want this to all be meaningful to me. I don't want to do a make-work project. I want to have this all relevant and useful for my own work. The other tip I have is to try and co-author articles with your colleagues and look to publish. To get that experience too, very valuable. Number 6, use the cloud to store everything or save. You get the most when working from apps. Like I find that the web apps are not as good as the desktop apps. There's usually 2 versions, especially in Microsoft. Use the desktop app, there's usually more features. It's a more powerful tool, but make sure that when you're working from your desktop app, that it is auto-saving to the cloud, because you don't want your computer battery to die, things to happen, to glitch and lose that information. You've been warned. Definitely always make sure you are working from the cloud at all times. The worst thing that could happen is you lose 30 seconds of work. Find what works best for you and use that approach for capturing your ideas, creating your work, and being productive. My example is, I mentioned that I'm an audible learner. Instead of me sitting down at a desk and reading an article upon article or book upon book, I do enjoy that, but I need to get up and move, and I need to be outside. I have a dog that needs walked. So what I would do is I would download articles, PDFs, onto my phone, and I would pop in my headphones, grab the dog, head to Odell Park, and have Siri read that article to me as I'm walking. I'm not distracted, but I am in a pleasant environment. I'm getting exercise, I'm breathing fresh air, and I'm listening and focusing on what I'm hearing. It's difficult you have to practice and get good at listening to artificial intelligence read you something. But once you do get in that pocket, then you can pause, pause. You have that technology pausing. Then you make a voice note on your phone. You capture that voice note in your notes, have AI send you that voice note to your email. Then when you get back to the office, back to your desk, you have 3 or 4 ideas that you've come up with while being out there. You've read the article, and you can make your notes from there and start to turn that into text.
So you use Siri?
Siri, yeah. I'm an Apple user, so Siri is the dictation tool. And so I would have Siri read me the PDF, then Siri's my assistant. So I would have Siri read me the text, I'd have Siri make a note, I'd have Siri send it to my email. And then I have that captured, because I'm out in the woods, I can't be writing down in a notebook, that's not very productive for me. I also don't want to be sitting there and wasting my time, that's kind of counterintuitive to why I'm even out there. So I would use voice to text to create these data for me to work with when I'm back to the office and have a computer to type with. Number 8, don't attempt to write the introduction or conclusion of a chapter or an article first until the body of your paper is finished. I spent so much time trying to write the introduction to an article I hadn't written yet, and then ended up turfing it and getting into the body, getting into the research, organizing all of that, and then going into your intro and conclusion. It sounds like it makes a lot of sense, but you will try this anyway. Take it from me, don't try to write your introduction. If you do have ideas for your introduction or your conclusion, pop them in bullet form up into your intro or into your conclusion, but don't spend too much time on them until the body of your work is done. Number 9, there comes a time when you need to stop reading and start writing. This was something that my supervisors were on me about. I was reading and I was just taking it all in. I couldn't get enough podcasts in the field. I couldn't get enough articles and books. And I was just, because I was learning about media ecology and it was so interesting to me, but there came the time and said, you know a lot now. You can do this, you're ready. We're not saying stop reading entirely, but we're saying start writing. You know, get that process. It's not only about just getting in, it's about getting it out as well. So, and recognize, it's true, yeah. And recognize that that process of reading is a feverish process where you can't get enough and you're getting a ton of content. You're taking in and ingesting a ton of content. When it comes to writing, it's the complete opposite momentum. It's a very slow process to write. So don't think that because you have read 100 articles in your area that you're going to be churning them out just as fast. I know that sounds obvious, but it is a different speed altogether. Number 10, some days are diamonds, some days are dust. And what I mean by that is someday you'll write a few pages and you'll think, wow, I've got a great momentum now. This is a very productive day. The next day you write one sentence. You try to write a lot of other things, and you have to be okay with that, getting up and saying, not gonna happen today. Getting up and going, doing something else and being happy with that. You cannot force it if it's not there. Just acknowledge that some days are diamonds and some days are dust. Okay, I lied. There's 10 more, but I'm gonna fly through them very quickly, okay? Be selective. You can't read every article, you can't read every book. Go through the abstract, say, is this something very valuable to me? Yes, it is, I'm gonna read it right now. It could be, I'm gonna file it away. No, it's not, turf it, move on. Number 12, teach courses, mentor in the field that you're actually researching. To teach something means to understand it, at a deeper level. Get involved in the faculty. If you are in that environment, you stay grounded, you stay in the node, you stay in stride, and in the practice, you'll learn from others and they'll learn from you. Volunteer on a committee, become a research assistant, go to presentations, work in progress, join clubs or teams, and attend socials and events. Immerse yourself in not just the reading and writing and thinking. Let your voice do the talking. This was huge to me. I would submit a proposal and my supervisors would say, this is good, there's a lot of good content here, not you. And I was learning how to, I'll admit, I was learning how to be an academic, I was learning how to write, but I was also trying to be something I wasn't. I was trying to be an academic that I'll never be. And finally, I hit the stride when they said, your experiences were as a teacher, as a technology coordinator, as all of these things, that's why you're here. That's what you have to contribute to this. You're not contributing what other people have already done. You're looking through your lens. That's what makes your work special, unique, and meaningful. And others are going to relate to that.
If you've got an audience, it's depends in the field.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, everything it is the audience.
Sure.
Someone told me if you like to teach, recently if you like to teach and you would like to get your freedom, academic freedom, so leave academy. You have to follow the crowd, you know? So that because
yeah,
now
that's one argument for sure.
Of autoethnography, so hey, if there is not an audience, we just have to create it anyway.
Your voice is important. Let your voice shine in your work. Be you and be critical. You can be both of those things. Okay, prepare for tomorrow. I love this one. Before you leave for the day, and maybe you're not leaving for the day, maybe you're doing this full time, but before you leave your computer, know what you're going to do when you return to it. Have whatever article you're going to read ready to go. Have whatever paper you're writing up on the screen. Know what you're doing, and when you sit down, otherwise, you'll start checking an email. You'll get distracted by all these things. Be focused and be ready. Have all of your things ready when you come to the table the next day. Strive to find a balance. This one makes a lot of sense, but it's hard to enact. Be productive and creative elsewhere. Don't let this only be your outlet of creativity. Keep up with those things. If you love music or cooking or these things, don't stop doing them. You need to do those things to be happy. Here's one. Your partner can only listen to your research interests for so long. Don't subject them to days and nights of just this. Talk to them about current events and the things they're interested to. Please, this is for your partner's sake and your friends. Spend time with your family and friends. Take your dog for a walk. Watch shows. Read fiction. Live your life still. Don't let because you'll crash if you don't do those things. Bottom line, don't let the work engulf you. Take time to live outside of it, or else you'll go mad. Say goodbye to things. It's tough to slice and dice the work that you love. You think you've invested all your time. If it doesn't fit, get rid of it. Move on quickly. File it away somewhere where you can find it. If your work, like we said, after a year or two, returns to that, you can go back and get it again, but get it off your page, get it out of there and move on. Maintain focus. And speaking of focus, set a goal for the day and stick to it. Schedule a do not disturb on your phone and your computer during your writing times. Don't check your emails and close your door. This is really important. If you are designating those times, you will get distracted unless you are deliberate about these things. Stay healthy. Your butt and your feet will hurt. Invest in a comfy chair or a stand-up desk, a floor mat, and good shoes and socks. Really important. Exercise, go for walks, drink lots of water, have snacks on hand, go out and talk to people rather than email them, which is it seems counter to what I just said, but getting up and moving is healthy for you. You'll get tired if you're stationary too much. And sleep. Sleep is very important. Make your research accessible, relevant, and practical. This comes down to audiences. And so for me, it was which articles do I want to publish academically behind paywalls? Which do I want to make open source? Write for multiple audiences. Think about all of the stakeholders involved in your work that might benefit from this. Keep those audiences in mind and write for them when you're writing. It helps you to focus to know who you're writing for. If you're just writing for your supervisors, that's not good enough. You need to write for an audience who cares about what you're doing. And use common language. And then think about multiple ways of disseminating your research, not just articles or books, but podcasts, videos, conferences, workshops, interviews. Get out there and share your work. And lastly, get it done. You can spend years of making it perfect, be satisfied with near perfection. Those are my tips for you all.